regarding the reported twin-demic this Christmas. Dr Hilary's here. We're hoping that it's not going to get too bad in the run-up to Christmas as far as COVID and flu goes.
Yeah, we're hoping that festive family gatherings will be taking place as we would love them to this Christmas. Because actually, if you look at the peak in July of cases, we're about 4 million mainly of the new variant, but it's about 2 million week on week now, and it's static. And the modelling that's coming out of University College London suggests that we're actually going to see a decline in the build-up to Christmas and perhaps another little peak afterwards, as you'd expect in winter. People getting together a bit more in unventilated areas, crowded situations. So it looks good for Christmas, but, you know, the flu is out there as well, so no room for complacency, but I think it's good that we can at least draw breath and say we can look forward to Christmas parties.
Thank goodness for that, because we need it.
We certainly
absolutely do.
We really do.
Now, this is a really interesting one, because there's calls now for people to see the same GP. Now, when I was little, it was Dr McKechnie, and I got Dr McKechnie and the whole family got him, and he got to know us really well, and he could tell if you weren't quite yourself, if you know what I mean. But these days it's kind of like whoever's free in the practice, isn't it?
For the last 15 years, people have been encouraged to register with a practice rather than with a individual doctor. Now, you know, back in the day when I started in general practice, I had a personal list. I still have a personal list, and all the evidence suggests that running a personal list has huge benefits, not just for the patient, but for the doctor as well. So if you come and see the same doctor that you like and who knows you, you don't have to go through the same story. They know you, they know your habits, they know your job, they know where you live, they know what medications you're on. You don't have to go through everything twice. So it's time-saving when we've got such limited time with each patient. You're much less likely to be referred to a specialist as well. If the doctor doesn't know you, if it's a locum or a doctor that you're not familiar with, he might take the safe route and say, I need to refer you to a specialist. Whereas somebody who knows you is more likely to say, well, let's wait and see. This has happened before. So they're familiar with your medical records. And the House of Commons Health Committee want to return GPs to doing personal lists. By 2027, they want 80% of doctors doing this, and by 2030, everybody's seeing the same doctor. That's never going to be possible because doctors do actually have breaks sometimes. They do go on holiday as well. But there are huge advantages, and it would save it'd be far more efficient for the NHS to do this if we had enough doctors to do it. Well,
that's the thing, isn't it? There's a shortage, so that is something that they've got to concentrate on as well. But you're right, it makes much more sense.
And people like it. The trouble is that some doctors are more popular than others in practices.
You're right.
So the trouble is, and the same in hospitals, the consultants and the doctors who have more empathy and people like are the most popular. And they are inundated. They have big waiting lists. So that's one of the reasons why people are encouraged to join a practice rather than a doctor, because then it equals the workload out.
Right, but then it just shows you who's doing a really good job, that's for sure. Now, look, we were talking about this. It's very interesting. Your tongue, we're talking about how you getting to know somebody and how they're doing. Your tongue can tell you an awful lot about how you're getting on, can't it?
Absolutely. The tongue is an important part of the body that is responsible for a lot of our health. So eating, swallowing, talking, kissing, it does all those things. But actually, there are something like 20 billion bacteria that live in the mouth at any one time, largely on the tongue. So when you look at your tongue, it should look, I think we've got pictures of what a normal tongue looks like, it should look nice and pink. None of those, actually.
No, they're the wrong ones.
Smooth. No, they're the right ones.
Are they?
Because this is when things go wrong.
Right.
So the middle one there is the white-coated tongue. This is very common. So people who mouth breathe a lot, nasal congestion, breathe through an open mouth at night, they can get dehydration. So the white tongue is partly food debris, it's partly dead cells, it's partly bacteria. A hairy tongue is usually a sort of brownish tongue.
It's not like hairy.
And it is actually furry. It can get furry. So we see this in smokers a lot. We see it in people who've got thrush sometimes. And again, whose oral hygiene isn't particularly good. A geographic tongue is really interesting. The tongue looks like an atlas of the world. And that's usually due to fungal build-up. and just changes in bacterial makeup over the surface of the tongue. So what's important is to look at your tongue, and if it is coated and furred, use a scraper or your toothbrush to scrape off the surface gently. So here's a tongue scraper.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't use these very often. You can buy these in any chemist, and just a gentle scrape from the back to the front, perhaps when you've still got some toothpaste in your mouth after brushing your teeth and before rinsing, is well worth doing. Because otherwise, bad breath, oral hygiene...
We don't want any of that.
We don't want any of that.
Especially if you're going to be kissing.
There you go, absolutely.
And kissing is so underrated. It's one of the great joys of life.
Totally.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree
now,
more.
look, you've got cake, which is great. You've got coffee in that little pot.
Yes.
And this is important for our health.
Now, to the uninitiated, this is the Swedish art of Fika.
Fika.
We need to embrace Fika,
Fika.
by enjoying, roughly translated, it means coffee, cake and catching up.
Coffee, cake
and in a world where society is angry and irritable, and we have so many problems that we're facing and mental health issues are there, we need to be catching up with coffee and cake and embrace this concept, which is Swedish in origin.
Yes.
And the Danish and the Norwegians also have the concept of hygge.
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 Yeah, that's good. Coziness.
Coziness.
I like
and the Swedes take it to the extreme where they actually put it in part of their commercial contracts sometimes. They encourage employees, like IKEA, to actually enjoy Fika as part of their job, because that's where some of the creative business ideas come from.
Exactly.
So I would suggest...
Are we going to have cake?
You have a little bit of...
You bet. Thank you so much.
Coffee and cake.
I will have coffee and cake.
And catching up with me.
Thank you.
So that we can relax.
I like.
And stay healthy.
Thank you very much. Oh, I've got to talk now. I'll do it once I've finished talking.